Vicky. Okay. All right. So I am so excited to be here. As Vicky has said, I have never presented to anyone in India. I've not been to India. So I'm really excited to be here today. As Vicky said, I have done a lot of travel. There is still more travel for me to do. I usually have a background that says to travel is to live. And as she said, I'm very interested in other cultures. So I've learned so much from my travel, and that is part of who I am. As you see in the background here is one of my items that was on my bucket list, which is Peru, or Machu Picchu in Peru. And this is Larry, just in case you were wondering who is that, okay? So I named him Larry, and he is going to help me out with my presentation today. So let's get started. So one of the first things, let me get my presentation up here. Okay, can we see that?
Yes, Mom.
Great, thank you very much. All right. So one of the reasons I chose this picture here is, first and foremost, I love kittens. I have 2 cats, just to give you a little bit of background about myself. And the university I teach for, which is St. Leo University, their mascot is the lion, right? And what I want you all to get out of this is, when you look in the mirror, I want you to see a lion. I want you to see someone who is going to go for what you want in life. So that's how I wanted to start. And a little bit more about myself. So in addition to my travels, I also speak Spanish semi-fluently, and I speak some Italian. I'm an Italian, first-generation Italian-American. My mother was born in Italy, and I still have family in the north of Italy that I keep in touch with, and I visit probably every couple of years. So another way demonstrating that I am multicultural. So our presentation today is identifying your strengths and your career opportunities. So let's go ahead and get started, okay? For those of you who are on the line, what I'd like you to do is put into the chat what industry or area of specialization are you thinking about going into, or you're studying in school? Just type that in the chat. Whether it's teaching, business. Just want to get an idea of what people are.
How about my team? Could you type in the chat? Psychology, teaching.
Journalism, psychology, teaching. Okay, good. A lot of teachers out there. Awesome. Teaching, awesome. Psychology.
Thanks for joining us, Anita.
Okay, we've got maybe about 5 or 6, maybe a couple more people tell me what area they're considering. Literature, counseling. Okay, awesome. Great. All right, so also I want you to get out a piece of paper, because I was not able to send something previously, but I want you to take a piece of paper. It doesn't have to look like this. It could have lines on it or whatever. I know sometimes it's kind of hard to see what the put back here, right? And I want you to fold it in half, right? Once. And I know it might take you a few minutes to get the piece of paper. You can get it while we get started. So fold it in half once, and then fold it in half again. So when you open it up, you have 4 quadrants. Okay, so you'll I'll talk about this later. Okay. So just if you want to, while I'm talking, get that piece of paper and do that while I'm talking. All right, so let's get started. First, I want to talk about your job search, right? Your job search, a lot of times, no matter what country you are searching for a job in, is going to be daunting, okay? Sometimes it's going to be discouraging. It's okay, okay? Just remember that you're not alone, right? You're not the only person that this is frustrating for, okay? But then also sometimes it can be enlightening. And one of the reasons why I say that is because there are some things that you might learn about yourself in this process, right? You might learn certain things about yourself, maybe when you're interviewing or when you're looking for jobs or when you're talking to people about jobs. And that's important to make note of some of these things that you're learning. You may learn that you apply for a certain job or you're looking at a certain job, and that's not right for you. You may hear about a certain job and find out more about that job and realize, oh, I never thought that job was for me, but now that kind of makes sense. So in the job search, you can also find out information about yourself and then also information about jobs that are out there. Because a lot of times what happens with us is we have misconceptions in our mind in regards to what a certain job entails. And you can tell I'm Italian because I'm making a lot of hand gestures. What a job entails that you may not necessarily have known. You may have assumed that a certain job may have required certain skills or maybe required certain types of work. And then after you're doing some more research in your job search, you may find that it's different. So look at your job search as a discovery, right? You're discovering, you're getting enlightened about the job market that you are going into, the industry that you are going into, and learning more about that industry, okay? Because again, the more you know about your industry, the better off you're going to be, because you need to be, as this word says, enlightened about your industry and understanding what it entails, the jobs, the skills, those type of things. Okay? All right, so your approach to the job search needs to be thoughtful, okay? You shouldn't just apply for anything and everything, right? You need to put a thought process into, okay, what am I applying for? Where am I applying, right? What type of company or industry or government is this that I'm applying for? What type of sector, right? I do tell my students though sometimes that applying for a job that maybe you're not quite qualified for or maybe not quite interested in, if you get an interview, we'll give you the opportunity to interview, which is always good, because the interview, I mean, I could do a whole another segment on interviewing, but the interview process it can be very daunting. So the more chances you get to interview, the better off, right? So one of the things that I'm going to try to emphasize today in this session is that you are deliberate about your job search, okay? Meaning that you are not wasting your time looking for jobs that are not a good fit to your skills, okay? So you need to look for jobs that are a good match with regards to your skills, your interest, your values, your surroundings, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about that as we proceed on. So what does it take? Don't give up, right? If you know what you want, and the industry you want to be in, the area you want to be in, the type of job, don't give up. Okay? Be like this little mouse who's trying to get that cheese, right? Be persistent, and most of all, be patient. Okay. All right. So I'm sure a lot of you, I know I can say in my lifetime that I've had rejection, right? Rejection from somebody who, maybe a school that you tried to apply for, or rejection from significant other, or rejection from many different areas, right? No one likes rejection. Okay, it's not fun. It's hurtful sometimes, but in your job search, I think it's important to understand you're going to get rejected. Okay, it's going to happen, right? You can't expect that every job that you apply for, you're going to get, right? Just think of it this way. It's a matchup, right? Like I said in the previous slide, when you interview for a job, not only are they looking for you as the right candidate, but you should be looking to them to see if this is the job that you want. Because if you take a job that you don't want, guess what happens? You're not going to be happy, and you might end up leaving, right? So why go through all that hassle of looking for a job, interviewing, putting in your resume, those type of things, to end up leaving after 3 months or 6 months or a year, right? So make sure you're patient, right? And make sure you understand that a rejection is not a rejection of you personally, right? It just wasn't a good fit, right? Let me tell you a story. So I had my bachelor's degree for a long time, and I was working in the hospitality industry doing accounting. And my boss said, you know, I think you would do well teaching. So she got me this job at here we call them technical colleges, which is, you know, they teach skills and stuff like that. And there's not a full 4-year degree. So I taught some hospitality classes, and I really liked it. Well, a couple of years after that, I had a friend of mine who was teaching at the University of Central Florida and said, hey, you should go back for your degree so you can teach. And I said, oh, no. I'm going to have to go back for my master's and then my PhD. I can't do that. I was hardly even a C student when I got my undergrad. You know, there's just no way, right? He said, no, we're growing the college. It was the Rosen College of Hospitality. We're growing and we need professors. You would be great with your years of experience in the industry, you know, and you can get your master's and then your PhD because we're starting those programs. And then when you're done, you could work here, right? So I live right down the street from the college, and I'm thinking, okay, this is great. This would be the best thing for me. It'll be close. I like the teaching. I don't know if I could get through the PhD and the master's, but I'll try, right? So that was the plan, to get through the degrees and then work at the university. So I got into my master's, and they hired me as a part-time teacher as I was getting my degrees. So then it came time for me to graduate and to apply for a job there. Well, in the meantime, things had changed at the university. They had grown. The person that had mentored me at that point in time had left because he had some health issues, so he wasn't there. I applied for the position, and they said, no, we don't hire our own PhDs. It's common in universities in the United States. I'm not sure about others, but we don't hire our own because we consider it inbreeding. You need to go and get some experience somewhere else and then come here and get hired. I was devastated. My whole plan for the 7 years that I was gone back to school was to teach there, right? I didn't have a plan B, right? That rejection was probably one of the biggest rejections in my life, okay, unfortunately. And it was devastating for me. Had I had a plan B and understood that it wasn't the right fit for me, I would have been in a better place, right? So right after the rejection, I looked on the internet and I found a university that wasn't too close to me, but it was close enough, looking for a hospitality professor who had been looking for a hospitality professor for over a year. And that was St. Leo University. And I've been there 10 years now, and I have never looked back. In fact, it was the best decision I ever made in my entire life. In fact, I am thankful for that rejection, because at that university, I would have had to not concentrate on teaching like I do at this university, but I would have had to do a lot of research, which is not my forte. So, God showed me the way. He had a path for me, and I am very, very happy where I'm at right now. So I tell you this story because I want you to understand that even though there's times when you get rejected, it's probably for a reason. And most likely it's because there wasn't a good fit. Okay. So as we go forward, okay, let's move on to here. So how do you identify opportunities that are out there? Now, one thing I want to say about opportunities, which I didn't necessarily mention in these slides, is creating opportunities for yourself, right? Self-employed, right? That's something that I am working on right now. I'm working on becoming a certified executive coach. So I hope to, in the next 5 to 6 years, be out on my own, leave the university and have my own business, right? So that's creating an opportunity for yourself. So I want you to keep that in mind as well, that you don't always have to work for someone, right? You can create your own opportunity, right? Even though these next couple of slides are talking about, working for other people, okay? Whether we succeed or fail in life depends on our ability to conquer the challenges in our opportunities and discover the opportunities in our challenges, right? So first and foremost, when you're identifying the opportunities, is you have to make sure you have the right mindset. And I kind of talked a little bit about that when we talked about rejection and stuff, but you have to have the right mindset, right? Think about, and be deliberate, okay, and in preparing for your job search and understanding there's going to be rejections, and that understanding that you have to be deliberate, stay positive, and know that you're going to find something that's going to lead you to the right opportunity, right? You should be continually looking for opportunity. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean that you're continuing looking on the internet, because that's not the only way to find opportunities, right? We'll talk about that in a minute, okay? So keep that mindset that you are continually looking for opportunities, right? You should keep a notebook with you, or maybe if you have the ability to put notes on your phone, like I do. I have the ability to, I have a note program on my phone. So anytime something comes up or I think about something, I write it down, right? So you should do this with your job search. You should write down notes if you think of opportunities. Hey, what about this? Maybe I should look into this, or maybe I should think about creating this business. Just continually keep notes to yourself so that you can be thinking about, because ideas don't necessarily come when you're sitting at the computer looking for an opportunity or looking in the paper or however you search for a job, right? It can, the thought of opportunities might come while you're sitting down with a friend talking about something else, right? There are many times when I'm talking to someone else who is maybe in a different industry where he or she might say something about their industry, and I think, wow, that kind of makes sense to what I'm thinking about doing. And, by talking to different people in different industries, you get different ideas. So always keep that notebook, right? however you can keep your notebook, all right? You need to obviously seek opportunities, okay? Opportunities are not always advertised. Sometimes opportunities are created for you. Sometimes you meet somebody and you identify your skills to them, and then they realize, oh, you would be a good fit for this or possibly this, right? So not all opportunities are advertised. And this also goes along with the idea of creating your own opportunities, creating your own company or business or something like that, okay? So there might be an unfulfilled need out there, right? Maybe there's a need in your area for, I see a lot of teachers there, right? Maybe somebody teaching some type of technical skill, right? We have a lot of augmented reality and virtual reality coming into the world nowadays, especially in the teaching space. Maybe if you're good at technology, maybe that is something you could specialize in, right? So again, look for opportunities, look for needs that can be fulfilled, right? Next is networking, okay? Networking is very important because most jobs are not advertised in a paper or online, okay? Most jobs are received via knowing somebody, okay? So networking is an important part. So I want you to put into the chat, how many people have a LinkedIn account? Put yes in the chat if you have a LinkedIn account. Great, nice, that's great. I see quite a few yeses, that's awesome. Okay, so I want each one of you to send me a LinkedIn request, all right? So now I have presented to you, and when you send a LinkedIn request to me, I want you to put that I saw you speak at the SJC presentation on Saturday. This way I know who you are, okay? Those of you who do not have a LinkedIn account, I highly suggest. I did some research to see that India is the second largest nation to use LinkedIn in the world. So obviously it is very prevalent in India. Okay, so here are some of the questions. And one thing you need to understand is the environment in which you were in. And when I say the environment, it doesn't only mean, you know, the physical environment, right? It could be the political environment. It could be the environment within your industry, the economic environment, et cetera. So it's important for you to understand that. So here are some questions that you need to ask about your environment, right? Is there a labor shortage within your industry, right? If so, within which fields, right? If I see a lot of teachers, so is there a need for teachers? If there's a need for teachers, maybe there's a need for English teachers and you have a biology degree, or maybe there's a need for language teachers and you have an English degree or something like that. So scanning that and trying to identify where there is a labor shortage might help you possibly concentrate a little bit more. In fact, if you're in the middle of going to school, this is an excellent way to determine which direction you might be going. So if there's some high school students out here, I think you should consider, before you choose a direction to go in, a major, then you should look and see where is their need, right? And I'm not saying that you should always do that, because I don't want you to, you should follow your passion, right? And what you're good at. You shouldn't necessarily follow where the need is, but it is important to understand and know that, right? Which parts of your industry are growing? As I said, with teaching, this technology aspect, there's a very large need for that. So that part of the industry are going. Are you interested in any of these areas? Okay. Same thing, what I just said, are that what are technologies that are being used in the area? How might that impact the industry in which you work in? So for example, my industry previous to education was hospitality. The hospitality industry is incorporating quite a bit of technology within it. So for example, when you stay at a hotel, probably within 10 years, if you ask for extra towels or, some toothpaste or something, it's most likely going to be delivered by a robot. Okay. Not that I necessarily agree with that, but there is technology now that's being implemented and has already been implemented in some hotels to where that gets delivered to the room instead of using labor. Okay. Other questions to ask: is there a need in your industry that no one is filling? Right. Again, this takes the ability to scan articles, to do research into your industry, et cetera. Get involved in associations that are part of your industry, right? Are any of your customers, vendors, or suppliers experience problems in your industry that you might be able to solve, right? Again, by reading trade journals within your industry, these are some of the ways you can find out if there's an area within your industry that you might be able to concentrate on that you could go into. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about, okay. All right, so I want you to put in the chat, right? Yes, in the chat, how many of you heard your parents or teachers tell you, you're not good at this, you have to improve in this, right? You're not good at X, whatever that X is, and you have to improve on that. How many people have heard that from somebody? Miss Vicky said she wasn't good at technology. Couple people. Finance. Okay. I don't think anybody's good at finance. I didn't do well in finance either.
Says the woman who's a certified hospitality accountant executive. Okay,
that's another story for another day. That's a story for that's a never say never story. Okay, so we got quite a few raising hands, right? So for many years, it's been, you got to work on your weaknesses. You got to work on your weaknesses. Okay. No, you don't. You have to be aware of your weaknesses, most definitely. That is very important, to be aware of your weaknesses. Okay. So there are certain skills that you're good at. Like me, I'm sorry, Vicki, but I am kind of good at technology. It's kind of I probably should have been an IT person or something, but as an accountant, it's very, in fact, before technology became very popular, accounting got technology, because doing accounting by hand was very, very tedious. So accounting was one of the first industries to get technology. So I always had the software thrown at me and I had to figure out how to use it. So that was kind of my forte, which is good. And I was able to, I never had anybody teaching me. They just said, here's the accounting software, you figure it out. So, so there are certain things that you're inept at and certain things you're not. Some things you can improve, some things you can't. Like, for example, if you're an introvert, right? And you have a job that needs you to be an extrovert, it's going to be hard. Okay. It's going to be very hard. I'm not saying that you can't do it, but it's going to be very, very difficult. So if you are an extrovert, you should choose a job that makes sense for an extrovert, right? And vice versa, right? So I want to say there are certain things you can change, like you can improve a little bit on math if you're not a math whiz, but most of the time, there are things that you're not going to be able to change. So what do? We need to concentrate on our strengths, right? We need to play to our strengths. We need to do things that enhance and help us use our strengths. Right? So I point this book out here called Strength Finders. I use this with my students. I give them this test, and what the test is, it tells you your top 5 themes, right? There's 38 themes, and this tells you the top 5 themes, right? So the 5 themes are the ones that you are your strength, right? So the book is about $14, right? Which is not too bad. But the thing about the book is if you buy the book new and you get the code and you can take the test. There's another test out there that someone told me about. I'm not aware of it, but you can take it that's very similar, but it's free. So if you want to take the Strength Finder test for free, but you don't want the book, and it's similar, it's not exact, you can search Strength Finder test that's similar or something like that. So again, important to understand what your strengths are. And this is what we're going to talk about in the rest of the presentation. So success is achieved by developing our strength, not by eliminating our weaknesses. Okay. So one of the things, this is where I want you to get your piece of paper out. Okay. Because what we're going to talk about now is what's called a personal SWOT analysis, okay? And those of you who are business majors, I didn't see any business majors, but SWOT analysis is used in business, right? It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, okay? So when you're in a business, right, you need to identify what your business's strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what the opportunities are out there in the environment, and what the threats are. The differences between these 4 is the 2 strengths and weaknesses is internal, right? And the opportunities and the threats are external, right? Now we can do this with ourselves, right? We could look at our personal strengths, our personal weaknesses, and then we can look in the environment in which we are going to enter, or the industry in which we're going to enter. What are the opportunities in that industry? And what are, not the treats, the threats? Obviously, I'm not an English major, Ms. Vicki. Should say threats, T-H-R-E-A-T-S. So we're going to do this with ourselves, right? So what I want you to do is on the top of the paper, okay, on the top, if you're looking at the paper on the top left, I want you to write strengths, weaknesses, okay, just on the top, strengths and weaknesses. And then Miss Vicki, you're going to be able to post this presentation on the website for them?
On the website, there'll actually only be a 10-minute excerpt. On YouTube, there'll be the entire presentation.
Okay, but could you post the physical PowerPoint?
Yes, I think so. Salishma, can we put a PowerPoint on the website?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So we'll include that. So don't worry if I go through these questions too quickly, right? Because what I don't want you to do is to try to do this right now. I want you to set up the piece of paper so that you can take time later on once Salishma puts the PowerPoint on there, and you can look through each of these questions and ask yourself and then answer them for yourself to fill this out, okay? So for your strengths, what do you do well, right? What are the things that you tend to lean towards, right? When someone says, like for me, it's planning, right? I'm a big planner. Anytime there's something to be planned, whether it's a party or a meeting or a get together, I'm the planner, right? I always jump in, I'll do that, right? What resources do you have to draw on, right? Certain people have certain resources. Maybe your parents have certain types of education that you can draw on. Maybe your family has a business that has certain skills that you can draw on. So think about what are the unique resources that you might have at your disposal, okay? And another thing which a lot of people don't think about is, what do others see as your strength? Okay, now don't try to answer that yourself, because most likely what's going to happen is you're going to answer what you see as your strength. Ask other people that are close to you. Ask your parents, your guardians, your good friends, your significant other. What do they see as your strength? Okay, this question can be very enlightening when you hear it, because there may be some strengths that come up that you may not have ever thought about. Okay. Then on the opposite side, weaknesses, right? What could you improve upon? And again, with the weaknesses, there may be, you know, with regards to that question, what could you improve upon? As I said, you need to distinguish things that you can improve upon and things that probably are inherent in your personality that may not necessarily be able to be improved upon, okay? Where might you not have resources, right? You may not have certain resources that you need to recognize. And then again, what are others likely to see as weaknesses? So again, when you're asking someone to help you out that's close to you about your strengths, also ask them about your weaknesses. Now, I know this is a very tough question to ask somebody, or to hear from someone who's very close to you what your weaknesses are, right? But again, what did we say? We need to understand our weaknesses. Some of them we can change, some of them we can't, but it's very important to be aware of them. Okay, very common in an interview for someone to ask you a question like this. If they may not necessarily use strengths or weaknesses, they may say, what is something you can improve on, right? So understanding and knowing this and doing this exercise helps you also for the interview process. So here are some more questions that you can ask with regards to strengths. Okay, and again, I won't go through every single one of these because Celicia is going to put them out. It's going to put it on the website so you can use this. Okay, maybe some ideas of what are some tasks that you enjoy doing. Maybe in school, like when you do maybe a group project, or you're the one that's always taking the notes, or are you always the one that volunteers to present? You know, what are the subject matter in school that you really enjoyed, right? So these are kind of questions that you need to ask yourself. Okay. Then we go on to, oops, this should be, sorry, should be switched. So then we go on to the bottom half, right, of the worksheet, right, which is going to be on the bottom here. Sorry. Well, you get the idea. On the bottom half of the worksheet, you're going to put opportunities and threats, right? So again, remember, this is external, right? And just for your environment, let's say, for example, in your local city, you know, may be different than in another large city. But if you're looking for a job in your local city, okay, what are opportunities available to you, right? What could you take advantage of? What is the economic situation in your local area, or where you're looking for a job, right? Excuse me. So it's important to identify these opportunities within the area that you're considering, okay? And then again, threats, right? What are some things externally that could harm you? What is the competition doing? What are other people that are graduating with your degree? What are they doing? Are they, you know, are they being taught to do something that maybe you don't have? What other things that are threats to you within your industry? It could be technology change in your industry that might make a big difference. that could change the whole way that your industry is viewed. For example, I saw someone else, or a couple of people put psychology, right? So not sure if they call them therapists in India, but you know, you're looking for counseling, right? There has been a lot of counseling now done via Zoom, right? Or via some type of video platform. That is a big change in this industry, right? So if you're not comfortable talking into a camera as opposed to talking to someone face to face, that might be a threat to you, right? So these are important things that you need to understand. And lastly, these are some more questions that you can ask with regards to, all right. Okay, I guess I didn't put on the extra credit. I did not put on the, let me go back. I did not put on the extra questions for the threats and the other threats.
Opportunities.
Thank you. But I will put that on there before she posts that. So now, first of all, I want to thank you very much for listening to me today, okay? We're coming to the end of our session. One thing I did want to do before I started, and I forgot, I do want to take a minute, since we are coming together from different countries. I do want to take just a couple of seconds of silence for all the people who have lost their lives to this terrible disease that we have affected the world. So let's just do that just for a second now. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's very important for us as a world to recognize that this is a horrible thing that has affected everyone in the world. So, okay, so now it's time for your questions.
Well, I'm going to start out, if you don't mind, because I have one that's in the front of my mind from your last slide on opportunities and threats. That last question under threats, Judy, what threat do your weaknesses expose you to? Can you give an example?
Yeah, sometimes your weaknesses actually provide threats to you as a person, right? So for example, public speaking, that seems to be something that a lot of people have a problem with, right? And it's very common. I get students all the time, well, I don't want to speak in front of the class. You know, and that is something that some people can improve on and some people can't, right? But it can be seen as a threat in the industry, because if you do not, like, for example, I see a lot of teachers, right? So in the industry of teaching, you have to stand up and talk to people, right? That is just what teaching is about.
Right.
So, you know, that is an idea of something that might cause a threat.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So you can either put your, we have a smaller group today, so you can either put your question in the chat, or you can just raise your hand, or you can just turn your audio on and say, excuse me, and present your question to Dr. Holcomb.
Yes, in fact, if you would like to do that, I would enjoy that better than seeing a chat.
And she would probably enjoy seeing some faces.
I would love to see some faces. That would be awesome. Now, if this was my classroom, you would not be allowed to have your camera off.
I can't do that in India because they use so much data. And
I know, I understand that.
So
I understand that. No,
okay.
But I mean, why I'm saying that is because, you know, I've been teaching on Zoom for a year and a half now.
Yeah, me too.
And, you know, I know some students kind of try to hide behind the camera a lot. So I require them to put the camera on. So
thanks, Anita. Anita, by the way, is in Abu Dhabi. But let's go
Avocado.
first to Shifa because she's had her hand up for some time. So Shifa, go ahead with your question.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, sometimes what happen is our threats, it just overcome our strengths. So we don't know how to, even though we are good in something, but our threats are so much in power that we lose our strength and we just don't get the opportunity of doing it. So how to just boost ourselves in that, ma'am?
Well, I think what you need to do is once you finish this worksheet and you kind of narrow it down to, or you do the strength finder, right? I want you to take those strengths and I want you to write them down on a piece of paper and I want you to put them somewhere you can see them all the time. Your computer screen, you're in your bedroom before you go to bed. I want you to look at them all the time because there are too many times when we, especially as women, unfortunately, focus too much on our weaknesses and we let those infiltrate our mind. And we say, oh, well, I can't do this because of this. I don't have that ability. No, we need to concentrate on our strength. We all have strengths, okay? And if we concentrate on those strengths and we have those in the forefront, we will realize that we have the ability to do many, many things, okay? It's a mind shift, Shifa, okay? Do you think you can do that? Do you think you can do that? Oh, awesome, awesome.
Okay, and there's Priscilla says, hello, ma'am, how can a student gain admission for a master's degree in the US? I think I'm not going to have, unless Judy just wants to answer that, I would suggest that you contact, and I can help you with that, the United States India Education Fund, USIEF, and they have a representative at the consulate in Hyderabad. So unless you just have something you want to say about that, Judy, I can send them to the right source.
Okay. Yes, I do want to say something. Now, St. Leo, I'm going to promote St. Leo a little bit because obviously I work there, but we have a very good percentage of international students from all over. And we have several master's programs that are online, so you wouldn't have to travel to the US, okay? And then if you're considering business, we just started an international cohort a couple of years ago of on-ground business students. So, and I'm sure other universities, depending on what you're looking at, pursuing a master's degree and have the same thing.
Yeah, the problem is often that because in India, they have a 3-year bachelor degree, and in America, we have a 4-year bachelor degree. So
yes.
Is that usually just dependent on the individual university?
Well, most likely not, because of the fact that we have accrediting bodies, and the accrediting bodies look for a certain amount of credit hours or contact hours that you have been in the classroom in order to equate to a bachelor's degree, okay. Right? So yeah, there might be some other classes you might need to take before you can actually pursue the master's. So.
Okay, but that's good to know about, what is it called, St. Leo?
St. Leo.
Is that in Orlando, Florida?
No, it's actually near Tampa, Florida. Tampa. Okay, I live in Orlando, but the university is near Tampa, Florida. Okay.
All right, any other questions? I know
you have questions. I know you have questions.
Yeah, maybe.
And don't be afraid to ask, because no question is stupid.
That's right. I really liked what you said about mindset. I think that's really important. I teach English for employability quite often, and I liked that that concept of changing your mindset and looking for opportunities, but also thinking about, and I have quite a few of my intermediates who are joining us today, and what you said about looking for where there is a need is also really important, because I remember when I came back from Russia after 11 years in Russia, I mean, I had worked for nonprofit organizations for years, But what I saw was a need in society was something that just fit my personality, teaching English to refugees and immigrants. And that changed my entire life. So that was really good. I liked that about the opportunities, creating opportunities, identifying opportunities. Any questions about that, maybe?
Can I say something about mindset? Because
Please.
I'm not a huge Facebook person. I don't agree with some of the things that have gone on in Facebook, but every once in a while something gets posted that I just feel is, anytime I repost something on Facebook, it's always either, it's always very inspiring. Okay, I never post anything negative. It's always very inspiring, and I don't do it very often. So I found this last night, and I thought this would be very good to share with the students. Okay, now I understand in the Indian culture that that it's very common for families to live together, especially when adults get older or family members get older, they live with a family. Well, unfortunately, in the United States, that's not necessarily the case. We have facilities that if the family can't take care of that, that older adults might go into. Right? It's not always the case, but it is sometimes. So I just want to preface us before I read this. So a beautiful, well-versed 83-year-old lady, fully dressed every morning at 8 a.m. sharp, with her hair done in fashion, perfectly applied makeup, is moving into a retirement home. Okay? Her husband recently died, which motivated her to move. After many hours of patiently waiting in the hallway of the home for her room to be ready, she smiled sweetly when they told her her room was ready. Right? As she moved her walker towards the elevator, she was given a detailed description of her small room, which including the curtains hanging from the window. The woman said, "I love it," enthusiastically, just like an 8-year-old girl who is excited about her new room or a new pet. Okay. The woman at the facility said, "Mrs. Jones, you haven't even seen the room yet. Just wait." Well, Mrs. Jones said, "It doesn't matter." Okay. Happiness is something you decide over time. Whether or not I like my room doesn't depend on how the furniture is arranged. It depends on how I arrange my mind. I've already decided that I like it. It's a decision I make every morning when I wake up. I have the choice. I could spend the day in bed going through the difficulties that I have with my body parts that don't work, or get out of bed and be thankful for the parts that do work. Every day is a gift. And as long as my eyes are open, I will focus on the new day and happy memories I have stored just for this time in my life. Happiness is a bank account you withdraw from, what you deposit.